We are honored to have with us this morning, ladies and gentlemen. Many of you probably do not know this gentleman, but he is doing a great job as our Secretary of the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. His name is Donald Vaart. Secretary Vaart was appointed to his current position by Governor McCrory at the beginning of this year. A longtime DEQ official, Vaart most recently served as the Department's Deputy Secretary and Energy Policy Advisor. Dr. Vaart holds multiple degrees and is a licensed professional engineer and attorney. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our Secretary of the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, Donald Vaart.
Thank you very much for that. I'm going to see if I can't. There we go. That's our new brand right there. So yeah, thanks very much for allowing me a few minutes of your time. This is a very important group. Our agricultural business in North Carolina represents roughly 17% of our economy, and it employs thousands and thousands and thousands of North Carolinians. I'm not a farmer because you guys are. You allow me to pursue my interests because you all make enough food for us to survive. It's a true honor to recognize North Carolina's position as a leader in the United States in the agricultural industry. But that's not why I'm here. Why I'm here is I'm going to reiterate a couple of things I think you've already heard, but from a perspective from someone who actually has spent his life protecting the environment. And it grieves me to a great extent to see the kind of trust that's been built up over the years, the kind of trust that the American public and North Carolinians have given over to environmental regulatory bodies to do what's right, to look out for the environment and to tell you when there is an issue, but to tell you when there isn't an issue and when things are fine. And what I've experienced now over the last number of years is an abuse of that trust, an abuse that harkens back to the days when I was a kid and I learned about the boy who cried wolf. And I'm very, very scared that if we continue on in this direction, the public will learn a cynicism about environmentalism, which is ultimately going to harm our ability to gather up the kind of support we need when there truly are issues. So today I was going to describe that concern, and they are somewhat unlikely in terms of their relation to each other, but it's very clear what's going on. Very briefly, I know very little about health care, but I can read the newspapers. The so-called Affordable Health Care, the CARE Act, it seems to be a disaster. If you look very recently, the largest public insurance company president just said it's an unsustainable market that was created by this statute, and it is going to end up not covering those who needed to be covered while increasing costs for everyone. So why am I talking about it, and why is it so important to this administration, to this group we have in Washington, D.C.? And I think it is really about taking over the greatest health care system in the world. And that's what they're attempting to do. Which brings us to the so-called Clean Power Plan. Now, this is an area I do know something about. In this case, we have an environmental protection agency that is trying to do what Congress explicitly told them not to do. And what they're seeking to accomplish is transforming our electricity generating system to one that is not based on economic decisions, but one that is based on a dispatch that relies on the amount of carbon dioxide that a particular generating unit may emit. It ignores the science. The head of the EPA themselves, Gina McCarthy, does not dispute the fact that the plan will do nothing about so-called climate change. It won't help the environment. In North Carolina, we're already breathing the cleanest air that we have for years. We have recently, first time in 18 years, we have satisfied all of the ambient air quality standards set forth throughout the state. We're breathing clean air. We're not going to get a thing, our environment isn't going to get a thing out of this so-called power plan. And it's going to raise your rates. When you move from an economic dispatch model, which we're living under now, to one that is based on some other parameter, like carbon dioxide, your rates are necessarily going to go up. And it's illegal. And it's really sad that we have a federal agency that is flaunting the law and abusing the trust that Congress gave to them in implementing the Clean Air Act, and they're now simply using it as a method for taking over the world's greatest electricity generating system. It's sad, too, that our chief legal officer in North Carolina is sitting by and doing nothing, but luckily our governor did instruct our department to file suit. And under our Constitution, we do have a provision that allows the governor to initiate such action when the chief legal officer will not. And so we are now in legal action, and we will take every possible legal function to attack this illegal and useless regulation. Finally, we have one that is probably more near and dear to your heart on a daily basis. It's called the waters of the United States. And again, in this case, the EPA has done what it's tried to do twice before. In both cases, they were struck down by the Supreme Court, and that is to vastly expand the definition of jurisdictional waters under the Clean Water Act. And what this means is that under the so-called clarification, the EPA will have rights to dictate land use over a vastly larger area in North Carolina. Virtually everything east of I-95 will be waters of the United States. And let me just show you, this is one representation of an expert's opinion on how the clarified rule, the so-called clarified rule, WOTUS, expands the amount of land that will become jurisdiction under the Clean Water Act. What you see here are these tributaries that are feeding into so-called navigable waters, which are rightfully regulated under the Clean Water Act. But under the various additional components in the under the WOTUS, you see some increased areas, and this last one is the 1,500 foot above the high water mark. You see how much that expands. It's kind of hard to see, but the light color area is all now jurisdictional lands. And finally, there's an additional provision that in this instance takes over virtually every piece of real estate in this particular land area. And what this means to you is a lot. But first, it means that your land value would drop immediately. Because if I'm a bank and I'm trying to loan you money, or I'm trying to value your property, what do you think I'm going to think when I recognize that much of your land now has been taken out of the use that you intended to use it for? I can't rely on you being able to do what you want to do on your land, and I'm not going to be able to loan you as much money. So that's right away the first impact that you'll have. Never mind if for those things that you want to do, you're going to have to hire scores of consultants and pay thousands and thousands of dollars and wait for years until you finally get the approval, if you can get the approval, to go ahead. And so why is the EPA doing this? Well, it's their interest to take over the world's greatest agricultural industry, and that's you guys. And it's really sad, again, that our chief legal officer is sitting by and doing nothing. I mean, Governor McCrory knows that being governor is more than simply naming a state bird or voting present every time the federal government wants to come in and take over your lives. And it's really sad for me, being an environmentalist, to see the vehicle being used in a cynical way the very statutes that I've been trying to protect for 20 years. So we did file suit again under our constitutional provision. The governor instructed our department through our general counsel to proceed with legal action. In the case of WOTUS, we've been initially successful in joining with other states and getting a stay. Without Governor McCrory, we would have been sitting on the sidelines. We've been watching and seeing whatever the federal government may want to do to us. And I'm not prepared for that, and neither is he. So I'm simply here to tell you what's going on in Raleigh, and that as a North Carolinian myself, I recognize one of the most important industries need to have somebody look out for them when the federal government comes knocking with their efforts to expand their control. So yeah, they're taking over the world's greatest healthcare system, and they're trying to take over the world's greatest electricity generating system, but we sure are not going to let them take over the world's greatest agricultural industry. Well, thank you very much.